His critics call Georgia's Supreme Court Chief Justice H.E. Nichols the hanging judge. They say every time he opens his mouth in favor of capital punishment, he does their cause some good. But the judge goes on with his public speaking because he believes if we don't do something to stop the heinous crimes, we don't deserve to be called civilized. And every time Justice Nichols gets to feeling soft-hearted about some case, it seems he's handed another one that stiffens his resolve to keep the death penalty as a deterrent. He read me portions of one such case. It was sickening.
He then bit one of Donna's nipples off, and she began to bleed. He asked for a razor blade and then slashed the other nipple. He then called for a box of salt and poured it into the wounds he had made on her breast.
It got much worse from that point in the transcript. The murder of the 16-year-old girl in this case was actually a blessing, and her killer is still on Georgia's death row, has been there for 7 years, and has filed appeal after appeal, stating that he was not treated fairly. Justice Nichols' main concern right now is that we have so many people on Georgia's death row that we may not execute any of them.
When you get so many of them down there, they're hoping, you know, that when the time comes, if it ever does, to start executing, they're going to say, well, the Supreme Court of the United States or the Supreme Court of Georgia or somebody's going to say, we're not going to have all that many people. That's a bloodletting, you know, although they've been waiting down there all these years. And that's one of the things that concerns me, that they might even do that, you know. But that's one of the things that they look forward to. They think that the more you have, the less chance there will be of any execution.
Justice Nichols said he has heard some killers boast that they would enjoy killing and would do it again if given the chance. They should never get that chance, he said.
Being an appellate court judge, I actually don't sentence him. I either affirm it, the jury.
His critics call him the hanging judge. A well-known liberal attorney told me, let John Nichols have all of my time. He'll do the anti-death penalty people more good than I could in 5 minutes. But I found Judge Nichols an articulate defender of the death penalty. In his 32 years on the bench, he has seen it all. And lately, he says, he has seen the worst of it. He has reviewed cases involving human butchery, where the actual killing was merciful compared to what went before it. But I had to know, did the judge remember the people he had put to death? And he did. He remembered them all.
I remembered it yesterday. One of the cases was a young man was estranged from his wife. I remember his name. I won't mention his name. But he tried to entreat her to come back to him, and she wouldn't do it. And on a particular Saturday afternoon, he knew that she'd be coming from out on Shorter Avenue in Rome, Georgia, be walking back towards town. He knew where she'd be, and we'd come. So he rode out there on a bicycle and stopped his bicycle, got off, and again entreated her to come back to him, and she still wouldn't do it, and he just pulled out his pistol and shot her dead right there on the sidewalk. The other one was the same sort of case. A man in a heat of passion, he went in a grocery store, and the man that ran the grocery store, and he got in an argument, and he went home and got his gun and came back, and they continued the argument, and he shot him dead. And, of course, he died, and he had 6 little, the nicest children I ever saw. It just broke your heart to look at them, knowing that he had to go to the chair. But he had violated the law, and the courts had found him guilty, the jury had found him guilty, he'd gone all the way through the courts, and he was electrocuted. Now, I remembered, and still do, the day they went to their maker. I remember that. I don't know why, but you do. You don't just wipe it out. So when I hear people say that, oh, he's a hanging judge, you know, it sort of gets to you.
Judge Nichols has come up with a plan that is backed by Governor Busbee, a plan that would eliminate the endless years of piecemeal appeals and get the condemned into the electric chair soon after their conviction. He calls the plan unified appeal. And basically, instead of allowing the convicted killers to send up one appeal after another, first claiming habeas corpus, then that they didn't have adequate counsel, then they didn't get their rights, then their confession was coerced, and 7 other specific possibilities. Instead of that, Judge Nichols proposes at the end of the first trial the appeal be automatic, but the trial judge would ask the defendant a checklist of questions and send all of the reasons for appeal to a higher court at one time. Tonight at 11 o'clock, I want to warn you, I will be giving details of one of the vilest crimes in Georgia history, and the killer in this case is still on death row on his umpteenth appeal.